In number 14, we're asked to find the sum, and I can tell it's a sum because we have a capital sigma here, from k equals 1 to 5 of k plus 1. So what this means is that we're going to let k equal 1, k equal 2, k equal 3, k equal 4, and k equal 5. And we'll find each of the values of our expression for that. So when k is equal to 1, k plus 1 equals 2. When k is 2, k plus 1 is 3, and so on. And now I'm going to add up those values. So I have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I just find the sum of those 5 values. And that turns out to be 30. And that's my final answer for that one. Let's take a look at another one. Here, I'm finding the product, and I can tell that because we have a capital letter pi here. And this time it's from k equals 2 to 4 of k squared. So to compute this, I'm going to take 2 and square it. Then I'll take the next number in the sequence, 3, and square that. And then I'll take the 4 and square that. And in this case, because we're working with a product, we're going to multiply our results together. So this gives me 4 times 9 times 16. And when I multiply those together, I get 576. So that's my final answer for this problem. This one is a little unusual. You don't usually see this very often. Here we have the sum as I equals 1 to 1. So what that really just means is plug in 1 for I. It seems like really bulky notation just to do this one small computation, but there is a point to it, and we'll see that in the next section. So we have 1 times 1 plus 1 gives me 1 times 2, which is 2, and there you go. And now let's take a look at number 22. In this problem, we have the sum as n equals 1 to 10 of the expression 1 over n minus 1 over n plus 1. Now in this case, I just don't want to calculate this by hand. It's just going to take a bunch of time. Actually, it wouldn't be all that bad, and I'll show you why it wouldn't be that bad. But what I did first of all was I put it into the calculator. So this is a good opportunity to talk about how we put this type of thing into the graphing calculator, and then I'll show you why you can really get the answer fairly quickly by hand. So let's start off with entering into our list here. So you start out by pressing Stat and Enter on your graphing calculator, and this is for the TI-84 or 83 type calculators. So it's Stat and Enter, and then you have list 1 here. If it's not empty, you can put your cursor up in the tippy top here where it says L1 and hit Clear and Enter, and that will clear out this list. So assuming that your list is clear, you just start entering your data, and our values are going from 1 to 10, so I just type in those numbers from 1 to 10. So I've got those all typed in. Now let's take a look at the next step. All right, so now what I've done is I've moved my cursor up to L2, and I've typed in this expression. And this is really what we saw in the last screen. Okay, so that's, well, not the whole thing, it's this part, right? It's the 1 over n minus 1 over n plus 1. So now I have 1 over L1 minus 1 over L1 plus 1. So what I did was, because we put in the values of n into list 1, now I can use list 1 as my variable. And when I type this in and press enter, then the list just fills right in. And you can see that right here. And we get decimals. The calculator won't give you fractions in this window, so that's just the way it goes. Fractions would be a lot easier to deal with probably, but this is what we've got. And these are the keystrokes for getting to the end here for both of those screens. All right. So now what comes next is we've got all the numbers in the list, in list 2, and so I press the second button and I press second in mode to get out of there and to the main screen, and then second and stat to get to the list menu. So in the list menu, I move the cursor over to where it says math. I can do that by pressing the left arrow once or the right arrow twice, either way works. And I go down to where it says sum. So I'm going to choose that number 5, and I can just, as soon as I'm up here, I can press the 5 button on the calculator and it will open up the sum expression. And I enter sum of L2, and I get L2 in there by pressing second and the number 2, and that gives me a really crummy looking decimal. So we don't want a decimal really in this particular situation. We'd much rather have a fraction, so I press math and then the enter button twice, and I get my fraction in lowest terms. So we have 10 over 11. Now sometimes the denominator is too large. The calculator won't convert to a fraction, and in that case you have to go with a decimal. You don't have a choice. But in this case we do, and so we could make it 10 over 11, and that's the end of those problems.